Meet the Red Bull Dragonberry Energizer. It's one of the many new drinks out now. Who knew ice-cold drinks could be so fire? Try them all, only at McDonald's.
Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and it just occurred to me that ZipRecruiter has been sponsoring my podcast, The Way I Heard It, for the last 10 years. Consequently, I've agreed to sing their jingle at the end of this commercial in 4-part harmony, all by myself. Why would I do that? Because years ago, when the MicroWorks Foundation was expanding and I was desperate to hire a few uniquely qualified individuals, I posted a job for free on ZipRecruiter, and I found the people I was looking for in less than 24 hours. It's that simple. Ever since, I've been telling my audience that ZipRecruiter got me the most qualified, most interested people. And now I'm telling you. Post a job for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip and watch what happens. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. And now, here's their official jingle in 4-part harmony.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match at ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Doesn't matter if you were an Indian or if you're a Warhawk.
The Yearling Mention is the greatest.
This is the Believe in the Warhawks podcast, powered by WarhawkReport.com.
With hosts Dusty Thibodeaux and Chase Regent. More important than baseball. Sorry, Ford.
Oh, what on earth did I just walk into?
I think I'm doing this right, but he's yelling at me, so I'm not. And so,
What are these guys always talking about?
We talk a lot about food on this podcast, and I'm going to continue to do so.
So was that actually y'all's idea? That's awesome.
Nailed the introduction, by the way. Awesome.
Thanks,
I love
Fish.
it.
Funbelt Podcast, Believe in the Warhawks. Who knows what this show is? It's Thibs flying solo, no Chase, no Netland, no Harper. It's just me and the King Onion himself, Ryan Nanni, joins us for what feels like an annual discussion on God only knows what. Welcome in, Ryan.
Thank you for having me. I feel like we didn't do this last time, but let's make a pact that the next time I come on, not this time, it's too late. The next time I come on, let's let college sports be chill. Let's let them have it figured out. Because the last year or so, or however long it's been since I was last on, that is not what college sports have been up to. They have not been chill, and that is not cool with me, frankly.
I don't even know what college sports are anymore. Like I kind of came into the show. I was like, high five, Ryan. We made it to college football game day. What was your Thursday game that you watched? I watched Nichols and Mississippi Valley State to get ready, peeking in on ULM's week 3 game against Southeastern Louisiana. No, that's not even how we started talking before we hit record.
Yeah, and by the time this episode comes out, that's the other fun part about let's talk about the state of college football. It's like, all right, decent chance some judge somewhere renders whatever we're about to talk about completely out of date and meaningless, but we're going to do our best, right? That's all we can do in this life. So we're going to do our best.
Speaking of which, as I was fumbling through the Twitter to make sure I did send you the right link for the recording. Temporary restraining order, TRO, out of Louisiana. Go figure, the good old boot holding it down. That the SEC cannot ban professional athletes from coming into the league.
Yeah. I saw Greg Sankey's named on that. The SEC specifically is named on that. We've spent most of the last week being like, well, all these court orders, they say the NCAA can't do this, but maybe the conferences can. Maybe the conferences have a little bit different wiggle room. They're not directly named in these lawsuits. And you're right. And we've immediately said, oh, okay, well, it's not going to be that. Just an extremely, extremely chill situation that is kind of bonkers. Because, I think if you were to say, what was the story of this off season, outside of the coaching carousel and all of that, sort of once that all settled, you'd probably say it was Brendan Sorsby. You would probably say it was this Power 4 playoff school quarterback having this years of gambling sort of unearthed, some of it on a team that he, let's say the school that he was attending, not necessarily games he was playing in, and the fight over that. And now that feels like positively quaint because that was all very narrow. You could like draw a rectangle around it and say, it's about this school and this player and this judge. And you can sort of wrap your head around like, okay, here are the stakes, here are the characters, here's what's going to happen or not. And once it was done, it was done. But the way 5 for 5 and NFL and NBA and G League and et cetera players are able to sort of like find their way back to college rosters is working is impossible to sort of like track in a clean plot structure. Like it's weird to say I yearn for the simplicity of the Brendan Sorsby story, but I think I do in a weird way.
Who knew that ESPN, as much as they control college athletics, was ahead of their time with a 30 for 30? Did I say that right?
You did. And okay. It's just, I will say this because I'm sure we're going to get into some of the specifics here and there, but I like, here's my advice to you, to the listener, to the college sports fan in general. I have found that the less I really get wound up in the day-to-day details of it, the like, oh, okay, what happened 6 hours ago? What happened 6 hours later? The easier it is for me to sort of both sort of mentally deal with this story and to understand it, because it is not, and I felt this way a little bit about the legislative movement to save college sports, which is still technically ongoing, but at least has hit sort of a pause period. The more you sort of get trapped in the minutia of it, the more it becomes chaos and noise, and it becomes impossible to sort of like tell if there are trends or patterns or anything like that, especially because like, I think if you take it more from a digest standpoint and just say, all right, at the end of the week, tell me what happened. What happened this week? Then you can kind of say, okay, now I can sort of digest, here's what did and didn't matter a little more than if you're like really riveted to it. And thank God we have actual football coming in to give us a welcome distraction from the beat by beat accounting of here's everything that's happening in this sport that has nothing to do with play calling, identifying, reading a defense, like making your blocks, any of it. It has nothing to do with like actually playing the sport.
Well, they say, your brain doesn't fully develop until you're at a certain age. So maybe these schools are onto something, really taking advantage of the full developmental cycle. But how the hell did we get here? I mean, we went from you can't pay players. If you have cream cheese, that's a topping on your bagel and you're going to get in trouble. There's too much icing on the celebratory cake, to I'm going to pay you $5 million to be a second string right tackle. You get hurt the first day in practice, I still owe you the money and we get no benefit from it, to, well, I'm going to test the NFL the NFL waters, literally. And if I don't like it, I'll just come back to college.
The simplest answer is that it's the common thread to like every part of the story that you've just described, going back to like, frankly, like the 50s or so. And it's that colleges don't want student athletes to be employees. They just don't. Like, having employment status triggers a bunch of other potential labor rights and bargaining and process that they don't want to have to deal with. It's more expensive, probably. It raises a lot of thorny issues about like who is and isn't an employee. Title IX obviously comes into play, like, for a lot of reasons. And I'm not, I don't think these are defensible necessarily, but I will agree that they are challenging. I'll give them that. The idea of making, we'll say for purposes of our discussion, football players employees across the board is just something they don't want to do. That's something they want to avoid at all possible costs. They would rather have this bizarre system of what they can say on paper is not pay for play, even though it is. Even though everyone involved very much understands that, like, we are exchanging money for athletic participation. That's what's happening here. Like, do you remember that time when NIL used to be a, like, okay, well, we're going to kind of nod at it, and, like, you're going to be in some commercials, or we're going to put you in some social media. I feel like we don't even bother with that part anymore. I feel like we don't even sort of, like, go through the charade of, like, yeah, you're making $2 million, but it's as an endorser. That seems totally gone to me. So the simple answer to your question is, and it's why also the last gasp seems to be that the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives will save college from this fate, is they'll take any fate other than recognizing the athletes as employees.
I think the other thing that you missed on that, I don't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago, my school, ULM, put up the student fee vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
The biggest reason that it passed was getting the student athletes across the board, whether you played golf, tennis, football, baseball, whatever, to actually vote for this thing. If they're now employees, who's to say that the president doesn't want to give us the money for a new turf? Well, there's a no confidence vote.
Mm-hmm.
Or the coach, he's wasted money by recruiting these guys. We don't need them in our program anymore. I think it really kind of opens a big slippery slope that maybe, as much as a lot of fans always talk about the ULMs and a lot of the G6, they should go back to the 1AA ranks. Maybe they're right. And that's the separation, is that the G6 is the new 1AA and the P4 is just the Wild West, and whatever the hell you want to do, go for it.
Yeah. Do you, like, just for the benefit of everyone listening, I'll sort of do like a little impromptu history lesson here. The reason we have 1AA, FCS now, or the way in which we drew those lines originally back in the 70s was the NCAA basically said, all right, attendance at football games is where we're going to sort of like draw the line. It used to be that D1 was huge. The Ivy Leagues were in D1. A lot of HBCUs were in D1. A lot of FCS teams. Like some teams that have since moved up, but like D1 used to be like this giant thing. And everyone just sort of like kept to themselves in a lot of ways. It was a strange system in a lot of ways. But in any event, in the 70s, the NCAA said, all right, we're going to make attendance requirements and sort of use that on a rolling 2-year basis to say, okay, if your stadium's X size and you're putting Y people in it, you can be in Division 1A. And if not, you got to be in Division 1AA. And this caused some stress, and the Ivy Leagues got like a pass for a little while, and then they didn't. And there's a funny story about Cincinnati having to drop to FCS. That's why they're the first team to, I think, beat a top 10 FBS team when they beat Penn State. It's like, oh, okay, technically that's true. Anyway, but that was how we did it. And the reason we did it that way is because that was the easiest proxy for, like, how serious is your school about football from a monetary perspective, because that's where the money was. The money was in the gate. It wasn't really at that point in television. I think if we wanted to do this again, and God knows 50 years later feels like a decent place to do it, I don't know that schools and fans would have a problem if we sort of said, like, okay, this is what the price of entry is to play what we now call, let's say, Power 4 football. And if you don't want to pay that much money, that's cool. But we need to stop pretending that because everybody's in the same bowl subdivision, everyone's on the same playing field. Because the other thing that would do is then, if you wanted to be at FCS or whatever we're calling our new subdivision, it would also put a cap on you and sort of say, like, yeah, you can spend money on football. Can't be spending $30 million. Can't be spending $50 million. Like, at some point, it starts to hit a wall. And maybe that is a better way to sort of subdivide the sport, where you say the amount of expenditure you're willing to put forth sort of sorts out where you're going to live, and that maybe resets everybody's expectations. I don't know. I feel like that at least presents a path that is easier to grasp than the one we're on now.
Do we set it up as a relegation league? Is the bigger key question, where maybe it's Vandy that's flip-flopping back and forth?
Yeah. Kentucky's so relieved that you didn't call them out as the team that's flip-flopping back and forth right now. Hell, Florida hasn't done themselves any favors either. Yeah, I mean, the fascinating thing about all of this is that more than basketball, certainly more than college basketball, because the NCAA runs that tournament, and more certainly than any pro league, the whole thing's held together on trust and mistrust at the same time. Like, everybody in the SEC sort of has to say, like, all right, we all got to have each other's back until we don't. Until we are not really interested in toting along a Mississippi State this longer. Until we're sort of like, South Carolina, you're not carrying weight anymore. It also gets to this weird place where you're like, all right, when you think about sort of like relegation and promotion and all that, I always wonder, like, how would that work with schools different? Like, would we break it up by sport? Like, we'll use South Carolina as an example. South Carolina's men's basketball hasn't really done anything in a while. Women's basketball team is great. Are we putting one in one league and one in the other? Are we putting football in a different thing entirely? Is that better for individual sports, but maybe trickier as a sports fan when you have to keep track of, like, here are the 10 different leagues that my school participates in? I don't know. Like, it doesn't mean it's a bad idea, but with all these things, it's like I feel like we're trying to untangle the most mismanaged pile of Christmas tree lights ever. And we're just, as we go through it, we're like, there's beef jerky. Why is there beef jerky in here? I don't understand. There's like bed sheets. Like, we keep running into wild things in this pile of Christmas lights, and I don't know if we're ever going to get them untangled, honestly.
Just remember that Sunbelt men's soccer is the powerhouse that includes Marshall. Okay. Yeah. They're in the Sunbelt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kentucky.
Yeah.
Central Florida. Yeah.
So maybe the answer is there, that, like, hey, we can just make the conferences mean whatever we want them to mean.
The best thing about that was the year, I forget how long ago it was, Kentucky won the Sunbelt men's conference tournament. They handed them the trophy. The Sunbelt trophy is this nice, like, oval looking trophy. Mm-hmm. And the guys that are foreign, they're kind of looking at it like, that's not what the football team gets. It's a different trophy. It was just great kind of seeing this mindset of what the hell did they just give us, and why didn't we get one like they have, like that we see.
Oh, it's great. It's a great sensible thing that we've decided to put so much time and energy into.
And then what happens with James Madison? I mean, does it negate the relegation or the promotion because their head coach left?
Right. Yeah. I mean, in so many ways, like, it feels like we are living every experiment people have always sort of wanted to test on different sports at once with college football and college basketball right now. Because other sports have certainly gone through, like, free agency wasn't always a thing in baseball and football and basketball and so forth. And, like, those were fights that had to happen, and there were sort of, like, disruptions that had to occur. But it really does feel like we're just trying we've pressed every button in the elevator of college football, and we're just kind of seeing what happens right now. And I think that's what makes it that's what makes something like, okay, we're going to take this to the Senate and they're going to fix it. That's what makes it really tricky, is because, like, the more you sort of sit with that, you're like, fix what? Like, what specifically is the thing that you want to fix? Because it's not it's not just like, oh, okay, we just need this thing. It's like, all right, well, the calendar's wrong, and coaches are leaving in the middle of playoff seasons, and transfer portals messed up, and nobody can, and there's tampering, and you keep going down the list, and you're like, oh, this is a lot. This punch list of like what's wrong in this house is getting very long.
The one thing I still do wish that whoever they is, that they would fix. If we're going to allow professionals to go back into college, if you can go one and done for college basketball, football, everything else, why if I sign D1 baseball, am I playing D1 baseball for 3 years instead of just going JUCO, improve my stock, and I'm done? Who cares?
Yeah, it's... I don't have any answers to this because there aren't any good answers. That's
there's
the
not.
Frustrating thing. Yeah. Like, you know, I think it's interesting that in some ways what opened the door for a lot of what we're seeing is changes in NCAA hockey eligibility. Used to be that to play college hockey, you more or less, like the simple way to put it is you couldn't have played in Canadian juniors because Canadian juniors, you make a little bit of money. And by a little bit, I mean like $400 a month or something. It's more, it's basically like travel money of like, okay, you're living away from home, whatever, but you do, you know, you are getting something. And the NCAA, I think probably in a correct decision was like, well, okay, that seems like you haven't been a true professional. I don't think that should eliminate your college eligibility. But the trick with all of this is like, once you crack that door open, it gets a little wider and a little wider. And because we know now that the path to it is not, it used to be like, all right, if I want to transfer and I think I have a special hardship case, I have to convince I have to convince my school, both the school I'm leaving and the school I'm going to, and the NCAA, that that's correct. Now that we have opened the door to, I just got to find a local magistrate who thinks that, not even that I'm right, but that I have a case to make, and they'll throw me an injunction, and I'll get to do this because they're trying to preserve the issue. Like
a case to make or a good 40 time, by the way.
Or a good 40 time. I will say, this is not entirely nice of me. I do kind of wonder how much are we getting from, specifically in football, let's say, how much are we getting from guys who can't make, the 53, who can't make, who like are getting cut pretty early in camp? Because we're not at that, I think it would be one thing if you're like, oh, okay, you played 2 years in the league and then you sort of washed out or whatever. These are guys who like really aren't sticking for now. The whole thing is, man, it's so wild because there's nothing we have reached the point where there's nothing you could tell me could happen in a month, 2 months, 6 months that I could honestly say like, that's impossible. There's no way that would happen. Like, yeah, sure. If you tell me that they're going to go back and say, yeah, Aaron Rodgers played JUCO, and therefore he gets a couple more years of eligibility at the FBS level, and so he's welcome. Like, I'll buy it. 100% I'll buy it.
To get political on you there, you talk about the Canadian League being what caused it. Maybe Trump was right on putting all these tariffs in place.
Listen,
the best part slow it down.
The Canadian League is super pissed at the NCAA because it used to be you go play Canadian juniors, you can't play in the NCAA, so you have to stay in Canada. So they're super pissed at the NCAA because they're like, you're taking all our players now. What the hell? We thought we had a good thing going.
In the P4 ranks, I know you're a big Florida Gator guy.
Yeah.
When you see someone like John Summerall, does he have kind of that G6 stank on him, or are you like, no, he's proven that he can win and he's going to right the ship?
I think I worry less about sort of like pedigree because I think we have seen so many coaches prove that it can kind of look like you can view it however you want to view it. Like Brian Kelly going to LSU, you're like, well, hell, like just from a remove, you could be like, this is a guy who has won at a program with incredibly high expectations and attention, one that have some limitations in terms of like how they operate, more so I would say than your average SEC school, and was super successful. Like for all the jokes we made, what Brian Kelly did at Notre Dame was, at least on the football field, in the win-loss column, was enormously more successful than his predecessors. And and it's not even that it didn't work at LSU. It's that at no point did it even really feel like it was starting to work. And then you take, to stay in the same league, you take Kirby Smart and you're like, all right, well, there's a career assistant. Mama's calling, never seen him do this before. And there's like that little bit of bump and it's like, okay, completely turn Georgia around, you know? So I think there definitely have been portions of the Florida fan base that have said, or maybe said initially, like, well, we just did this Billy Napier. We just took a good G6 coach. A good G6 coach, but one who hasn't proven it at, let's say, like an ACC or a Big 12 job or something like that, and is now going to get thrown into this fire and he's going to be in over his head. I do feel like Sumrall, both in terms of background, reputation, and approach, feels significantly different enough that that does not particularly worry me. Maybe I'm being foolish, but that is not the part that gives me a lot of pause at this point.
Even if I didn't think it was going to work, I sure as hell wouldn't tell him. I mean, the dude tried to fight his strength coach when he was at Troy. I'm not going to. Yes, coach, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, the other thing that sort of gives me some confidence there is that, like, Auburn absolutely wanted this guy. Kentucky certainly, I think, wanted him and just sort of, like, fell into the wrong timing with everything. But I'm not necessarily, like, I hear what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm not necessarily saying that because Auburn wants a coach, you should want a coach. But I think it is helpful when there is that sort of, like, second indicator out there at your same level, especially from a school that, like, Auburn didn't have with the hire that eventually becomes Alex Golesh, they certainly didn't have the rope to be like, we can get a little weird with this one. We can get like a little wacky and try something. You know, it's like, no, they have badly failed, in much as Florida has, like, they have badly failed this hire multiple attempts in a row, and they have to nail it. And for both of those schools, which I think have very different administrations and in some ways very different fan bases, especially from a money perspective, for both of them to sort of say, like, yeah, we think John Sumrall has it, like, makes me feel like, well, okay, they're probably not both catastrophically wrong, even though I hear what I'm saying, that, like, yeah, man, there's a good chance Auburn and Florida are both catastrophically wrong. We've seen it happening for the last decade or so.
See, I just love that you're now on my level of your alma mater of, you know, every year is a sitting on pins and needles going, all right, here we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the best thing I've seen about Sumrall's hire is, like, hey, if we can just, like, not have 12 guys on the field for special teams play, that'd be great. Like, if we can just get through the year and be like, yep, every extra point was executed without some dumb penalty, like, that will feel like the bar is not that high right now.
And see, I can relate to that because we went through 4 kickers last year. If we can get a PAT with a procedure penalty, that means we were in position and we could have actually had a kick go off.
It's all about perspective, is what you're telling me here.
After you know, many years of following NLU, ULM, the Indians, the Warhawks, you got to laugh to keep from crying. And that's the only thing you can do. Yeah. And I know he's not here to defend himself, but just talk to good old Godfrey one time. I mean, he has great Monroe roots. He's been there for the high times of the 2012 season, but it's just weird.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, I wish I had something more eloquent to say about it at this point, and maybe that is the thing that is finally sort of bringing all of college football together. Is no matter if you root for ULM or LSU or Florida or Western Kentucky or Sacramento State, like it's all just pretty weird. Like I really don't think that there's any fan base right now that really gets to look around and be like, yeah, this feels pretty normal. This feels pretty like easy and comfortable, and like I totally know what's going on. I don't think that's true for anybody.
I know you're still a lawyer by trade. Does any of this stand any kind of legal ground, or is this just a lot of posturing and temporary, literally restraining orders to allow me to get on the field one last time? And cue the Scotty McCready 5 more minutes song in the background.
So I let me say that I think we have entered a really interesting territory for litigation in general. And this happens in all kinds of fields. Like this is not specific necessarily to college sports. I think a lot of what we're seeing makes legal sense and feels wrong and feels like it makes no common sense. And I think that is where any legal system runs into a lot of trouble. Like the more you tell people like, yeah, I know it doesn't, but according to the law, like, yeah, this is accurate, the more you push people towards alternative solutions, like going to Congress and like it is kind of weird that for all its bluster, for all of their bluster, I should say, like 5 years ago, the NCAA, the SEC, and the Big Ten didn't want Congress telling them what to do. They wanted to rule their own roosts. They wanted to set their own rules. They wanted to be kings of their own little fiefdoms. For things to have like spiraled to this point where they are basically begging senators and representatives to bail their asses out, sort of shows you like how that has shifted. So with a lot of the 5 for 5 stuff that's going on right now, I can conceptually understand. I can understand it as like a law school exam. I'm like, all right, if the general idea is you were in this high school graduating class, you went to, you tried to make an NFL team, washed out, or you just sort of like didn't come back to campus because you thought your playing career was done. And now there's a decision by the NCAA that makes it sound like you could have played, but because you acted on old information, you're disadvantaged. I understand why a judge is like, no, like you were acting on the information you had at the time. You shouldn't be penalized for trying to make a logical decision, and the schools and the NCAA changing their minds and changing their policies in a timeline that was unfairly disadvantaged you. I understand that logistically. The problem is how it all looks and feels. And you do have like, all right, here's this guy who was trying to, play with an NBA team and he's coming back to college basketball. Here are people you literally can watch at practice for NFL teams, and they're coming back to college football. And that's where the law is a very clumsy place to do this, because the law is only ever going to answer the question you ask it. Like, it's only going to say, like, hey, I think I should have the same rights as other 5 for 5 players. And the law is just going to kind of put the blinders on and say, like, yeah, that seems right. And they're not going to say, like, well, what does that do for the rest of the roster? Like, somebody else got your roster spot, and the roster is only so big, and it doesn't just sort of, like, magically expand because we put you back on. The law doesn't say, like, well, that really blurs the line between like professional and collegiate. Like, just like, yeah, it kind of sucks for you, but like in the interest of making this still seem like there's a distinction between being a college football player and a pro football player, we're just not going to let you do this. And we're sorry, but like, you got a deal. So I do think like, I understand the legal aspects of it, but that doesn't make it like particularly satisfying, and it doesn't make it like particularly easy to explain to fans. And to the extent like fans do support, like even the fans who do support, if you're an LSU fan and you're like, I think Lane Kiffin's right. I think, you know, he should do this because you got to find your competitive advantage somewhere. None of their arguments are like, I've really sat with the legal theory of this. It's more or less like all money is legal, rules don't matter, win however you can. Like, that's sort of the argument in favor of what's going on here, at least from a public perspective.
I want you to represent me whenever I sue Caesars, because I had good information that if I bet on this horse or this game, that it was going to win. It didn't turn out.
That's right. That's right. You have rights, and we'll defend them.
And how much longer before, you know, we have the personal attorney injuries that are yelling and screaming on TV? How long before we have were you wronged by your coach, your offensive coordinator? Give me a call, you know, 1-800-GAME-DAY or whatever.
I am kind of curious. Like, I don't think it's, you know, we don't have billboards for it, but like the industry, you'll notice like the industry for this is pretty small. Like the same lawyers sort of pop up over and over again. And I'm kind of curious. I'm like, how much of this is being driven by athletes sort of like saying, hey, like, I feel like I have a complaint here versus like some form of ambulance chasing of lawyers sort of being like, hey, I don't know if you know, but when you don't make the Browns roster, and let's be honest, you're not going to make the Browns roster, there's door number 2 we have. We can still get you some NIL money here. And that part that's another one where it's like, yeah, that's all technically legal and above board. It doesn't necessarily feel awesome. It doesn't necessarily seem like what's best for everybody involved.
We got to coin a new phrase. It's not an ambulance chaser. That has a negative connotation. What are we calling them? I mean, cleat chaser, you know, is kind of a shady thing in the baseball world.
Yeah. I don't know at this point it's not my line of business. And maybe it should be. Maybe there's a lot of money in it and I just screwed up. Who's to say?
Speaking of which, what are you up to these days there? I know that I feel like I never get to read the bylines from you anymore. I haven't heard you on the podcast. I haven't seen you. I look at an abandoned Twitter account. I mean, it's I didn't even know if you were still alive.
No, I can confirm I'm not an AI chatbot that you generated to bring on the show. I am still live. Most of these days, you can find me over at a still relatively new podcast I'm doing with Stephen Godfrey called Phantom Island. It's a little bit college football. It's a little bit other things as well. That's spoiler. That's why I knew what I knew about college hockey, because we did an episode about that about a year ago. The theme of that show is basically we like to take questions we have about sports in general. We have guests on and sort of try to better understand why sports work the way they do or what's going on with a certain story. And we talk about all kinds of things. We talk about the new owner of the Portland Trail Blazers. We talk about officiating in the WNBA. We talk about a lot of college sports too, because a lot of college football too, because of course we do. And we do have a couple of special projects coming out, one of which is a long, very like deeply researched and reported retelling / also extended version of the UAB football shutdown from 2014 to 2017. And it's about sort of the history of Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. It's about everything that happened after that program got revived. There is a prominent ULM figure, you will not be shocked to learn, who Stephen talked to for the story and is a part of that project. So yeah, we're still cooking, and you can just search for Phantom Island. You'll find it. We're still talking about sports and being tricky in our own ways, let's put it.
You're saying you didn't want to go talk to Bryant Vincent?
Here's the thing. Like you said, Godfrey's like in Monroe with some regularity anyway. So it's just easier for him to be like, hey, coach, I'm going to be in town in 2 weeks. You want to hang out?
Okay. Well, you tell me how we can get the Ryan Nanni on the Bayou, and I will ensure that I'm there. I mean, we're talking about good old-fashioned hate where Louisiana Tech, a team that's dodged the Warhawks time and time again, they're coming to the Bayou.
Did they decide which conference they're in? Did we finally decide which conference Louisiana Tech's going to be in this year?
They are finally in the Sun Belt Conference.
Okay, thank God. Thank God.
Although I wanted to see, I just wanted the logistics of seeing a 26-game schedule happen.
It really was going to be good. And I appreciate that football schedules was the good sports they were and gave them their 26-game schedule for a while. When you looked them up officially, it's like, yeah, they're going to play 2 games this weekend. Don't worry about it.
And some of them were actually possible. Like there was a trip maybe to Troy and then a game at Jack State. As long as it's a day-night doubleheader, man,
right.
Like, game on.
That's right. It's very throwback football. Like this is when football used to be football. You'd play 8 teams in 15 days, and you just make it work.
And the only thing better, and this is the corporate sponsor that Ryan Ivey, their athletic director, should have jumped on. Amtrak was the sponsor, and just go all in on it.
100%. Think about this. You're trying to make noise in the college football playoff as a group of 6 team. I think if you say, like, yeah, we lost 6 games, but we won 20 games. I don't know. I think they might have to at least pay some attention to it. Talk about strength of schedule. We played twice as many games as everybody else. You got to put us in the playoff.
Oh, but if you have that bad season, though, and it's like...
Oh, sure. If you go 2-24, it's pretty bad.
Oh, geez Louise. Well, I can't thank you enough. High fives anyway. We did make it to college football.
We did.
Or whatever we're calling this sport now that we get to start partaking in.
Yeah.
Always look forward to our talks and ready to do it again.
We'll do it next year, and I promise everything will have calmed down. It'll be totally fine by then.
I don't believe anything you just said, sir.
So what are you proposing?
It's simple.
Perhaps you should read the instructions first.
If you liked the show, like and subscribe wherever you stream podcast.
Is that good for us or bad for us?
Follow us on X at Warhawk_report. Like us on Facebook at Warhawk Report and click the subscribe button on YouTube for Fun Belt Podcast.
He's done! Done? It's only been an hour.